Legal weed has gotten really bad. What is going on? I'm Catherine Goldberg, and I'm going to tell you exactly what's going on. It's true to say that the government and big business got involved, and that's when it went downhill. And it's also intellectually lazy to end the conversation there. What happened? What went downhill? There are 7 variables that I'm going to go through to identify why the quality of weed has become so subpar. And I know I'm not alone with this because out of the 13,000 new subscribers that joined the channel last week, hundreds have said they felt the same way. Specifically, we were talking about energizing sativas or the lack thereof. But to take a step back, weed is not sticky anymore. It's dry, it's crumbly, it's not nearly as fragrant as it used to be. What is happening? Um, I would also like to, before I get into these 7 variables, it's not every single brand. There are some brands that still have integrity and patience. And if you know of them, please put it in the comments and don't forget to put where you live so people can find it. I'll compile a list and I'll put it on the blog. But I've been told that in New York, there's a brand called Rolling Greens that's consistently really good. And Illinois, there's a brand called IC Collective that's really good. And in California, what I like to buy is Autumn brands. Um, and I've heard that Michigan has a phenomenal program. And surprisingly, Texas and Mississippi have a really great medical program too. So it's not everyone, but it's the majority. And we need to do something about it. You have 2 best options, and I'll tell you what I'm doing about it. And please stay tuned to get into the 7 details because I think it means more when you understand the big picture. You can grow your own, or you can befriend a farmer. I have befriended a farmer. I'm not doing the dispensaries anymore. It's over. With the taxes, with everything, it is not worth it. Maybe we can have some sort of like buddy system where you comment where you're from and then I help you find a grower in the area. I don't know, but we really need to get back to basics because when big business came in and tried to make weed like the next Budweiser, they not only pushed out everyone who knew what they were doing, but they really compromised the entire medical value of the plant. So this is where we are. And it's from seed to sale that we have profound issues. So first issue is that these big grows are using autoflower seeds, genetically modified seeds. There is no such thing as a sativa or an indica anymore. They're all polyhybrids. They've been crossbred to death. It's marketing. Okay. The problem with using autoflower seeds, as I know because I've grown from them, is that the plants come out much smaller. The cannabinoids and the terpenes, the flavonoids don't get to develop. It's a very quick cycle. So you're left with kind of a bland product, assuming everything goes well within the grow. Okay, second, most of these big grows are happening indoors without the sun in cramped spaces that may or may not be cleaned on a regular basis. This is going to stress the plants out. It's going to bring in a host of issues with gnats and mites and mold and yeast. And that's a problem. Third and fourth, because they kind of go together, synthetic fertilizers are being used in these grows. At the very least, they're making the smoke much harsher. And who knows if these are being flushed out at the end of the cycle? Because I think we can say they're probably not good to be inhaled. And the second side of that is the pesticides that are absolutely being used and are not safe to be inhaled. And what I learned recently is that it's not only fertilizer and pesticides, but there's something called plant growth regulators, which are sprayed on for cosmetic purposes, like to make the buds look fatter and bigger and denser and frostier, yet they don't add to the integrity of the plant. So this is an issue. Okay. Then let's say you have grown all this weed indoors, you have these issues, whatever. It's not like it's being trimmed by hand anymore. There are big machines coming in and shaking the plants. When this happens, they're shaking off not all, a lot of the trichomes, which are the glands where the cannabinoids and terpenes reside. So you're already watering down the plant through this mechanical trimming process. Then there are only two left. So if you've stuck with me so far, you're going to be an expert too. Um, this is the most concerning one, and I'm going to do a whole blog post specifically about this. Much of the weed that's being grown is moldy and yeasty and has pesticides. However, if you look at the COAs, they're still passing. So what is going on? And not every brand is doing this. The bigger ones are, but they're using a process called irradiation, which is basically spraying radiation on the plants to kill the mold and the pests, but they're still on the plant for you to consume in their non-active form. I saw in Canada, someone posted a jar of their weed that they bought in Canada, and it said non-remediated. And this brand specifically has a practice of practicing integrity and not nuking their plants so that they're able to pass testing just to be sold on the shelves. And this irrigation process is in big rows. I don't think the smaller farms are doing this, but the fact that it's being done and not disclosed to the consumer is very alarming. And finally, with recreational cannabis, we now have testing offsite, right? Third-party testing. This is how you get the COA. However, we're waiting for, let's say the plant. Oh, you know what? We skipped a step. Okay. After the irradiation happens, right? What needs to happen in cannabis for all the flavors and the effects and the cannabinoids, especially the minor cannabinoids, to come out is that the plant needs to cure, which means it just needs to sit for months on end. The jar's opened a bit, it's closed. This is how all the flavors develop. And because we know patience is a virtue that the cannabis industry does not have, many are doing cures for 1 month at the most. So they're not even giving the plants the opportunity to develop the best they can. Which is why, again, we're seeing this very muted, dull cannabis where it's 32% THC and 0% CBD. And it's like, what are we doing here? Okay, thank you for sticking with me. So the last step is that with this third-party testing, it's going to take time for the samples to be tested, to come in, to be shipped back out, to get on the shelves. So by the time you're getting your cannabis, it was probably packaged like 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 months ago. And terpenes, which help dictate the effect along with the minor cannabinoids, are very volatile molecules, and they degrade over time, unlike THC. So yes, your weed might be testing at 1% terpenes, which is fine for commercial weed, but by the time it gets to you, who knows where it is. So for all of these reasons, I have become very disenchanted with cannabis. And yes, to the hundreds of people who said government got involved and ruined it, you're not wrong. But I think we need to be a lot more specific than that. So if you, like me, enjoy energizing sativas, and for the past 8 years or so, just they haven't been hitting the mark, you may want to find a landrace archive seed bank online to purchase seeds and to grow yourself. Or you may want to connect with a grower and talk about what strains the grower has right now in season. Because we really have more choice than we believe, and we vote with our dollars. So I am ready to see these shops go out of business and to fix this and start over, because the medical program in California, when I joined in 2012, was much different than this prepackaged garbage that we're being sold now. So if you're like me, I'd like to hear it in the comments. Again, it's not every single cannabis brand. If you have a brand that has been consistently good over time, please let us know, and I will compile a list to pass on to everyone. But between the radiation nuking and the fertilizers and the synthetic nutrients, it's lost its medical properties. We've lost the integrity here, and it's unfortunate that the people who knew what they were doing, who have devoted their lives to this plant, were the ones that were being pushed out because of all the costs required to do it legally. And someone said, and it was funny because I thought the exact same thing, like word for word, that we never wished that, like, we never thought that recreational would be bad. The medical program in California was so good. I don't think anyone really thought that we would be in this position today. Maybe I was naive. So this is where we are. And I hope by watching this video, you understand exactly why we are here. And hopefully people will start to bring this up to their bud tenders who may know or may not know, to the brands. You can tag the CEO of these brands, and say, like, we don't want irradiated weed. We don't want you to use synthetic fertilizers and, synthetic nutrients. Just grow the plant. And someone also mentioned, I'll just end on this. It's like, have you ever eaten a tomato off the vine? And have you eaten a tomato from Walmart? That's where we are right now with weed. So thank you for joining us, and I'll be back next week. I'm glad you're here.